anything more than kind of what we talked about, what they should be thinking of or what they should be doing? Because I'm sure the offers are very attractive, but you
Of
and I both
course.
know I've
Yeah.
been offered jobs before making big, big bucks, but I'm like, my sanity is worth something also.
Yes. Right. So that's really what it comes down to, a conversation first. So and ideally, it should never get to that point where, it's gone too far with no conversation about advancement,
Yes.
compensation, and where you stand with your manager.
Right.
That's obviously that's going to accelerate their decision to leave. But if you're an
Hmm.
employee and you're in this spot and you're trying to figure out what to do, you maybe talk to someone who's gone through that. Whether
Hmm.
it may not be your manager, if you're trying to give a more neutral opinion, if you have a buddy that you met through training, or someone, a more senior technician in the shop that has experienced that already in their career, you can bounce that off of them. But from the moment that you get that offer, and you're going to be under a time constraint, right? Because that's the
Yeah.
classic trick. That's, if you
Yes.
want this, you got to give me an answer by Friday, and it's Tuesday, right? And
Yes.
you go home and you're like, you're got to talk to your wife or your husband or your significant other, or you got to talk to your buddy, or find out, I'll do all this research about this shop, and this could be just a conversation. There's nothing in writing, and it's like,
Hmm.
I got to uproot my whole life for this, and I don't even know what's going to really be there for me at the end of the rainbow, so to speak. And that is not easy. And like I said, most of my shop, we're mainly millennials. I only have one guy that's in his 60s,
Oh, wow.
but he's very youthful in how he approaches his work and all that. So he gets along great with the rest of my crew.
Yeah.
But they've come to me regularly saying, Andrew, I have this. What do I do? And it
Mm.
makes bringing up compensation and growth and development uh, straight to the forefront of the situation, to figure out what do you want out of this. Are you serious? Does it, a lot of them just like to know, yeah, I'm desirable. That feels good, right? To get
Yeah.
somebody else to know that, hey, I heard about you from so and so, you're a really good tech, or you're a really good writer or a painter. That's a good reassuring feeling. But it has to be properly analyzed, and
Yeah.
not, even if you are under a time constraint, you've got to be able to step back and not let the money do all the talking for you, and tend to
Yes.
win you over on your decisions. So I mean, it's it's not like a one size fits all, because your relationship with your manager may or may not be that good. Some employees aren't all
Mm.
confident to go talk about salary or to talk about advancement or anything like that, because they've been let down by their manager before. And that may not be so easy to then, some may just internalize this and say, you know what, in the past I asked for a raise, they didn't do anything. Yeah, I'm gonna go. This seems too, this is a real good deal, and I'm gonna take it.
Yeah. And I think that's something good to note for managers to remember that, especially with the younger generation coming up. And I've talked about this in a couple of my podcasts, but I see it very clearly when I'm in my shops and I'm talking with the younger generation specifically. We all want to know that we're appreciated. We all want to know that we're part of the team. But one thing that I see more in the younger generation is they want to know that there's a plan for them. Like they need those regular check-ins and like, okay, what do I need to do to get to the next level? Because most of them don't want to just be here forever. Where it's almost as if going back in time, people went and worked for an organization and they worked there for the entirety of their career. They never really ever thought about leaving. That is not the way the world works now.
That's
And
my dad. My dad's been
yeah,
at the same job for 42 years. And that's and that's
same.
and that's
Yeah.
he grew that way, and he's basically part of the building. And that's not like that
Yes.
anymore. And I agree completely, because if you don't have a plan for your employees and they don't feel like you're invested in them, yeah, that's going to help hasten their decision to leave. And
Yeah.
to look at it from a manager's perspective. I know I said earlier that it seems like it's going to get worse, but you have a choice at the end of the day of how you engage with your team,
Yeah.
what you do to build that engagement, and how you lay out a roadmap for your
Right.
people. So
Right. I
obviously you got
agree.
to have the right equipment. The shop has to be safe. You got to do, those are just standard things. It's like when people were saying like blueprinting and repair planning is going to revolutionize the collision industry. Yeah, well, that's now the normal. That's the bare minimum.
Right, right.
Now you got to go above that.
Yes.
That's no longer to tell an employee, yeah, we'll give you a 401k, we'll give you health insurance and all that. Again, those are just the minimum. You
Yes.
really do more. And as I said earlier, we have not made this an attractive industry to work in. So to separate us, or for managers to kind of put our hands up against the dam of this onslaught of offers and people trying to take your employees, you got to start with yourself. That's how I look at it. And what
Yeah.
are you doing as a manager for your team? What are you
Right.
doing to keep them there? What are you doing to engage them? How do you understand how they feel? What are their pain points in the shop? A lot of my guys, they'll say like, a tech just told me the other day, I don't have, I need razor blades to do my job, or I need something a material and it takes too long to get it or whatever. Okay, well, let's figure out how to fix that. If that's a stress point for them, yeah, that may seem like that may get overlooked by a manager who's trying to make the numbers to keep the owner happy or whatever. But yeah, that affects them. And if you show empathy to their situation, that could change the dynamic. They feel like you care.
Yeah.
Stepping into their world.
Right. I agree. I agree 100%. Making sure that we're staying in touch, not just like physically, like, hey, how are you? But like you said, being emotionally attuned to know what their pain points are so that we can meet them where they're at. It's kind of like in any relationship that we have. If we can be aware where the other person is really struggling, then especially as a manager, we need to come in and be that support. And a lot of times they just want to know that you're there. And this would allow then for a shop like yours, so you don't have these huge pockets that maybe this other person that came in and offered this big money, but you can only control what you can control. So
right.
If we can control our actions, like you said, you can just be responsible for yourself. So if we can control those things, be engaged, be caring about the things that they care about, like you said, providing the 401k and the health insurance and that kind of thing, it's almost now those are like basics, even though the industry as a whole doesn't, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
But there are other ways that we can provide value to people is basically what I'm saying, beyond just the money, because we can't just make money and that we can't grow a money tree out in the back.
No. Right. Yeah, that's why I think EQ, emotional intelligence, is something that a lot of managers don't really want to delve into, because it's a very introspective look at how they lead and how in tune or out of tune they are with what's happening in their shop. I mean, I have a very technical background. I love cars even outside of work, and I've always been wrenching on my own stuff. So that is a natural passion for me there. But when it comes to being a leader now, I find more of my time is spent trying to be in tune with what's going on with my team, to try, obviously, to keep them here and to keep them engaged and motivated and inspired. That has paid more dividends doing that work than it is like dealing with putting on my fireman's hat to put out a parts problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Disagreement with an insurance company or whatever that may be. And that, for me, and I can't speak for all managers, but in my experience, that has been kind of a way that I've been able to navigate around this insanity that I see happening in the
It really does feel like insanity sometimes, I tell you. Well, I appreciate you coming and talking about it. I know that there are a lot of shop owners and managers, and we're all suffering because the whole shop suffers when we're short staffed, everybody, and the customer does also. So it's not just a you and me problem. This really affects everybody. So
even dealerships, service departments, it doesn't matter. And it even goes far beyond just our industry too.
Yes.
I mean, it's everyone. But
absolutely. Absolutely. But I'm glad that we were able to talk about it a little bit today. Hopefully we gave some other people out there some ideas of ways that they can potentially connect and provide value beyond just the dollar amount. But I will tell you, there's something to be said about paying your people a decent wage and paying them more, because there are a lot of, especially smaller independents, that are trying to get by, or just some shops are just trying to save money, that if they can pony up the extra money, even though it's not the big money that some of these guys are using, if you can pay a couple dollars an hour more, than some of the other places, you will be able to get and then maintain with some other value propositions. I think you'll be able to retain better techs. And I see a lot better quality and a lot happier people when you got a decent paycheck to go home with and you're getting all those things that you're talking about. Now, then somebody coming and poaching them makes it much more difficult.
Of course. Yeah, the two things have to go hand in hand. Fair compensation, good benefits, a manager that cares. All these things kind of interconnect together to make it a cohesive thing. And you kind of build your fortress around your shop to guard it from these outside influences that you can't, in many cases, you can't control.
Right.
If you take those steps, like we've discussed, that can put a pretty good dent in protecting you for what's going on out there.
Absolutely. 100%. Well, thank you, Andrew, so much for coming on and chatting with us about this today. So glad to shine a little bit of light on something that everybody's frustrated by.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So thanks, everybody, for listening to this episode of Body Bangin', and we will see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed today's show, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We have some incredible topics and guests coming your way you will not want to miss. If you are watching on YouTube and don't want to miss the latest and greatest, you'll want to hit the bell after subscribing, so you will get a pop-up each time a video podcast goes live. To our devoted fans, would you mind paying it forward and sharing this little gem with someone else you think may benefit from it? Much love from all of us here at Body Bangin', all things auto body.